Hey everyone, I'm David Warren. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about some of the challenges of anesthesia school, and I really want to show you kind of a glimpse into my life and what things are looking like so far. I am starting week 3 of my program tomorrow, and I have my first test on Tuesday in anatomy, and then an anatomy lab test on Wednesday. And so I've been studying quite a bit for that, and I kind of want to show you like what my life has been like and give you a little inside glimpse at that. If you haven't seen my other videos, I am a nurse practitioner and I'm going back to anesthesia school, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. And so I'm currently in evidence-based research, pharmacology, anatomy, and anatomy lab. I'm in the first quarter. The quarters are roughly 13 weeks, and then obviously there are 4 quarters in a year, and it's a 3-year program. And so the program I'm in is front-loaded, so I take all of my didactic courses first, and then I do my clinical rotations after. And so I am in Fresno, California. I'm here for 15 months, and then I do 20 months of clinical after. The classes so far, they've been challenging but manageable, and I'll kind of explain a little bit what I mean by that. I'm going to start with anatomy. So in anatomy class, I haven't personally had anatomy class since I did AP anatomy in high school, and I got dual credit for that for college. And so that counted as like my nursing school anatomy. And so it's been like 14, 15 years since I've had anatomy. Obviously in NP school, there are you get anatomy tied in to your courses, but you don't have just a dedicated anatomy class. And so that's been a bit challenging, going back and relearning the layers of the skin and the layers of the epidermis, the layers of the dermis, what their functions are, what the different types of cells are, embryology. It's just been a lot of information. In pharmacology, obviously I've had advanced pharmacology before, but not anesthesia specific. And so with this course, it's really anesthesia specific. The first couple weeks have been really about basic physiology and then some basic principles of pharmacology. So the basic physiology really goes down to the cellular level. We're talking about ion channels, and then the basic principles of pharmacology. It really doesn't seem so basic. It's like the typical pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics. However, it really incorporates math into it. So you're looking at like graph charts, and then there's a bunch of just concepts that are new. There's the compartment models, and there's the hepatic extraction ratio, just all of these extraneous things that I really didn't get in NP school pharmacology. And so this is very specific to anesthesia. And so that's been different, good, because obviously I'm going to be in anesthesia, so I need to have anesthesia pharmacology, but different for sure. The anatomy lab class is much the same as anatomy lecture. It's just looking at currently now the tissue slides, the embryology stuff, that sort of thing. So, oh, my phone's falling down. And that's another thing here, side point. I left my camera at home. I put all my stuff in storage, so I'm filming on my iPhone right now. So I'm sorry if it's like not the best image, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. So with anatomy lab, I'm mainly looking at like tissue slides, that sort of thing, but I'm not really like looking at organ systems, that sort of thing yet. That's kind of to come in the future. But these have been good so far. It's been a lot of material, but overall it's been a productive few weeks. And so I would say the most challenging aspect so far has just been the volume of information. And I kind of knew that coming in. I'd heard about that coming in, that there's just so much information that you have to know. And that's really true. It kind of rings true. In anatomy class, we started out with biochemistry, and then we went to embryology, and then we went to the tissue lecture, and then to the skin lecture. And so that's what's going to accompany our first test on Tuesday. And each PowerPoint presentation accompanied with a lecture. The lectures are around an hour. The PowerPoint presentations are like 60 to 80 slides long. So they're like just a lot of information. And, with anatomy, it's more of memorization and looking at, a slide and memorizing what's there, memorizing the structure and the function, memorizing the layers of the skin, what they do. So it's not a whole lot of application at this point. There's some application, but it's mainly memorization. And it's kind of the same thing with lab. There's not really a whole lot of application style stuff at this point. With pharmacology, it's a little bit different. It's not so much memorization. There's a lot of like concepts that you have to grasp. And that's kind of the challenging part there with that volume of information, is there's still, 60 to 80 slides, but there's just a lot of concepts that you have to get. You can't just memorize it. You have to like understand what's going on. And some examples of that would be with like ionization and the pKa's of the drugs, what pKa drug is going to ionize at what pH, what's going to be ionized more, what's going to be ionized less, what's going to cross the cell membrane, ion trapping, there's the compartment models, the loading, there's just a lot of like concepts that are challenging. And I guess that's kind of to be expected with anesthesia pharmacology, but it's nonetheless a challenging part of it. With the evidence-based research class, the challenging part of that is, again, just the volume of stuff that you're required to do. It's not really hard. We only have one exam, but we have to do like an evidence-based practice presentation. And so we have to do a literature review, a PICO question, like an evidence-based or an evidence table, and then like an evidence-based poster presentation. And so, it's not necessarily hard, but it's just time consuming when you have these other things going on, other classes going on. So I would say overall, the most challenging aspect is just the volume of information. And of course, it's going to only get worse because we're only in the very basic aspects of the classes so far, really the introduction. So I'm currently ahead of the game right now as far as staying caught up on the material, but I don't foresee that lasting very long. Everybody says, oh, you're going to fall behind. Like that's kind of a normal situation. So I'm kind of anticipating that. I am working a bit ahead today on pharmacology for the following week's information, and it's on neurophysiology, and that's got my head kind of spinning. It really goes down to the cellular level, talking about G proteins and ion-gated channels and enzyme-linked receptors and all the neurotransmitters. There's just a lot of like information that you're expected to know, and so that's the challenging part. So I would say overall, the most challenging part is the volume of information. Secondly, it's staying organized because there's just so much that, you're being pulled in multiple different directions. And so there's just so much that you're required to do. And that's one of the big challenges, is staying organized, knowing where you're supposed to be when. Are you going to be on a Zoom? Are you going to be on campus? Do you have a test? Do you have a quiz? Do you have a project? So in my prior life as a practicing professional, nurse practitioner, I use Google Calendar, and I would put all my stuff in Google Calendar and be ready to go. But I haven't really done that with this. I bought a paper planner and I put everything on paper, wrote everything down everywhere where I was supposed to be. And so I'm going paper with this particular program. And I don't know if you can hear the cat meowing out there, but I'm in my Airbnb and there's a cat here. Super cute. His name's Kuma. Sweet little cat, but he's just like meowing like crazy outside. So I'm sorry if you guys can hear that. Anyway, it's the volume of information and organization is huge. You really have to like know how to be organized. And I'm currently, my eyes are like darting, but I'm watching the NFL wildcard game. The Cowboys were playing. They're two scores down. They just scored. So I'm gonna try to like stay focused on the video here. Sorry, I keep getting all this extraneous material in the video. Organization is key. You really have to stay organized, and that's going to be a challenge for me personally. And so I think the paper planner is going to work for now. I'm going to see how it goes as the semester goes on. I might switch back over to like a Google Calendar or some online format, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. It's manageable. However, another thing I want to point out is the organization as a class. And so when I was in nurse practitioner school, our class really didn't come together. Like we were kind of we had some study groups, but we were kind of all separated, which is kind of weird because now in anesthesia school, everybody's like together. We have like a Google Drive. We all share our notes. Like everybody will upload their notes to the Google Drive. We have different study groups lined out. Like it's been very interesting so far to see the cohesiveness of the group and how much we're like really pulling together. And it's like really cool to see that and really cool to experience that because I didn't really have that in NP school. And so it's neat to experience that in anesthesia school now. The Google Drive is super helpful. Like I said, we all upload our notes. We do really everything through the Google Drive, and we share a lot of information together that way. And that's been very helpful. So now I kind of want to give you a glimpse into my day. So I usually wake up around 6:30 in the morning. I'll have some tea and then I'll get started on my work. I usually start by tackling whatever is pressing that day. And so, like for today, it's been anatomy because I have a test on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I've really been pushing through that material. I feel very comfortable with the material, but now the last couple of days, I'm really like winding down and trying to just go over the material and make sure I know it. Whenever I first start with the material, I will listen to the lecture. I have an iPad and I'll make some notes on Notability. I'll upload it. I'll upload the PowerPoint or the note slides into Notability on my iPad. I'll listen to the lecture and make notes, highlight things with it. And then I'll go back and transfer that to a Word document, to like a bulleted Word document, and highlight, but color code it based on the system or based on the structure, the function, or whatever it is. And then I will make note cards from there, usually to like solidify the material in my head, and then I'll just go through that to learn the material. However, that's for anatomy. So like I said, anatomy is more memorization. The pharmacology aspect is more like application and trying to know the concepts. And so that's been a little bit different. I definitely listen to the lecture, make notes on the slides, but then I will also go back and read the textbook. And I will try to really like focus in on what I need to know, what the concepts are, and try to like wrap my mind around that particular concept, whatever that is. Sometimes that involves going and watching a YouTube video. An example of that would be when I was studying a couple days ago, we were studying hydrolysis reactions, which is a phase 1 reaction. And there are 4 different types. There's only one of which that doesn't require enzyme activity, and that's Hoffman elimination. And I remember Hoffman elimination from organic chemistry, but it had been so long, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really need to like go back and think about this. So I went back and watched the video on Hoffman elimination and hydrolysis, and it like kind of clicked in my head, and I was like, okay, I remember that. And so things like that, like I'll go back and look at concepts and try to figure out what is going on and what I'm doing. So that's a little bit about how I study. I definitely use an iPad and a computer. So I have an office that's out in the Airbnb like common area, and I've set my like, I don't know, 24-inch laptop monitor up, or 24-inch monitor up there. I'll plug my laptop into that so I have like a full screen computer, and I will pull on my material up there. So I may have like a book on one side, some notes on the other, and on my iPad I'll have like something else pulled up. So I can have like multiple things going at once. I have a smaller iPad. I really wish I had the bigger iPad. That's one thing I like regret. I'm not going to go out and buy a brand new one, but I have the smaller iPad Pro. The bigger one would be super helpful to have if I had that. It's not worth going out and spending more money on. When I bought it, I was like, it's almost as big as a laptop. Like I'm probably not going to use it. I'm just going to use the smaller iPad. But I didn't. Like I really would have used the bigger one if I had it, if I had the option. But I'll say, I already have it, so I'm just going to use what I have. I'm not going to go back and do anything different. So that's kind of where I'm at with studying. Again, the hardest parts have been just the volume of information. That's going to get worse. And organization. I think if you can master organization, everything else you can hang on to. So comment below if you're a CRNA student. Let me know what your tips are. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week.